50 meters down, off a headland on the Turkish coast, lies the richest cargo the Bronze Age ever lost. 10 tons of copper, a ton of tin, gold, ivory, ebony, and glass older than the art of glass blowing. After 11 years of excavation, nobody can say whose it was. In the summer of 1982, a sponge diver named Mehmet Çakır surfaced off Uluburun, Grand Cape, near Kaş, Turkey, with a strange report from the slope below. "Metal biscuits," he said, "metal biscuits with ears." His captain did not laugh. He had sat through a briefing in Bodrum, where archaeologists taught sponge divers what ancient wrecks look like, and a biscuit with ears was on the list. A copper ingot, cast in the shape of an ox hide. Nobody had made one in 3,000 years. On that slope lay a ship that sank around 1300 BC. Archaeologists would spend 11 years and 22,000 dives raising the greatest Bronze Age treasure ever recovered from the sea. And when the last object surfaced, they still could not answer the first question a shipwreck asks: whose ship was this, and where was it going? Start with the copper, because the copper is the ship's spine, roughly 350 ingots cast in the ox-hide shape, flat slabs with 4 corner handles, sized for a man's shoulder, and another 120 cast as discs. 10 tons of metal and lead isotope analysis traces it to the mines of Cyprus. Then the tin, about a ton of it. And here the manifest stops, looking like luck. Working bronze takes roughly 10 parts copper to 1 part tin, and 10 tons to 1 is exactly what this ship was carrying. This was not a hold full of odds and ends. It was a bronze industry packed flat. The right metals, in the right ratio, ready for the crucible. In 2022, an isotope study asked where the tin itself was born. About 2/3 came from the Taurus Mountains in Turkey. The rest came from a mine called Mushiston, in what is now Tajikistan, more than 2,000 miles from where the ship went down. It is some of the strongest physical evidence yet found that a tin road ran from deep in Central Asia to the shores of the Mediterranean 33 centuries ago. Stacked with the metal lay about 175 ingots of raw glass, cobalt blue and turquoise, the oldest intact glass ingots ever found. Not cups, not beads. Glass as an ingredient, cast and shipped like metal, and around all of it, the rest of the cargo reads like a fairy tale with paperwork. Logs of African ebony, elephant ivory and hippopotamus teeth, one of them carved into a trumpet. Ostrich eggshells, tortoise shells, beads of Baltic amber from the far north of Europe. Nearly 150 Canaanite jars packed with terebinth resin, 9 cylinder seals from the Near East, and one small thing that anchors the ship in time: a gold scarab carrying the name of Nefertiti, the only gold scarab bearing the Queen's name ever found. Tree rings from a cedar branch in the hold, radiocarbon, and the scarab converge on the same window. Around 1300 BC, give or take a couple of decades, depending on which method you trust. Count the places of origin and you run out of map. The cargo represents at least 7 distinct cultures, possibly as many as 10, reaching from northern Europe down to Africa, from Sicily east to Mesopotamia. One ship, one hold, most of the known world. And mixed in with the treasure were quieter objects, the belongings of the people who sailed her. That is where the inventory ends and the mystery begins. Getting it back was its own epic. The wreck lies on a steep slope, 44 to 52 meters down, with cargo scattered to 61. Beginning in 1984, the Institute of Nautical Archaeology mounted 11 consecutive campaigns, 22,413 dives, more than 6,500 hours of work on the bottom. George Bass, the Institute's founder, directed the first season. Cemal Pulak directed the 10 that followed. What they raised is routinely called the richest and best preserved Bronze Age wreck ever excavated. And scattered through the splendor, the divers kept finding the small things. Oil lamps, 4 sets of balance pan weights, the pocket tools of working merchants. One set, finer than the rest, found with a sword in the Phoenician style, the kit perhaps of the man in charge. Those objects have a homeland. They are Syro-Canaanite, from the Levantine coast at the eastern end of the sea, but threaded among them is a second signature: Mycenaean pottery, Mycenaean weapons and seals, enough to suggest that at least 2 Greeks were aboard. Not crew, it seems. Passengers. Then there is the object that hurts, a folding writing tablet of boxwood, small enough to sit in a hand, its 2 leaves hinged with ivory, built to carry wax writing surfaces. It is one of the oldest writing boards ever found. Whatever was written on it, a manifest, a letter, an owner's name, or nothing at all, we will never know. The wax did not survive. The one object on the ship built to carry words came up from the seabed blank. The sea kept the cargo. It took the words, almost all of them. A few of the copper ingots carry incised marks, single signs, cut into the metal, in a script called Cypro-Minoan. It belonged to Bronze Age Cyprus. Barely 250 inscribed objects survive from every find spot combined, and no bilingual text has ever been found to unlock it. Maybe tallies, maybe names, maybe nothing, and nobody on Earth can read them, so we hold the manifest down to the last amber bead. What we do not hold is the story, and after 4 decades of scholarship, the biggest questions stand exactly where the diver left them in 1982. Here is what the evidence will carry, and where it sets you down. The leading reconstruction goes like this: a Canaanite ship out of a port on the Levantine coast, loaded with an international cargo, working west toward a Mycenaean destination in the Aegean. Rhodes is the most common proposal, until, off a notoriously dangerous headland, something went wrong. The merchant weights say Levantine traders. The pottery says Greek passengers. The scarab says the ship sailed no earlier than Nefertiti's era. That much most scholars can live with. Then the reconstruction runs out of wreck, because the real question is not the route, it is the purpose. And there, the cargo argues with itself. Theory 1, this was commerce. A working merchant venture at extraordinary scale. Its evidence is the professionalism. 4 sets of merchant weights, standardized jars, raw metals in exactly the working ratio. Everything a commercial run would need, and nothing it wouldn't. Theory 2, this was diplomacy. Not a shipment, but a gift, a royal consignment from one court to another. Its evidence is the glamour, a queen's gold scarab, fine ivories, cylinder seals, cargo that reads less like stock and more like tribute. Perhaps the 2 Mycenaeans aboard were its escorts, seeing a king's gift home. Scholars have gone at this for 40 years, with lead isotopes and tree rings, and every tool the field owns, and both readings still stand. Every one of these is an educated guess. None of them is an answer. The ship carried no log we can read. The crew left no names. We can trace the tin in the hold to a mine 2,000 miles away, and we cannot name one human being who sailed with it. But here is the beautiful part. Every other cargo of that age arrived and vanished. Delivered copper became swords and mirrors and was spent. Delivered glass became beads and was scattered. The trade that knit the Bronze Age together was consumed by the world it fed, and it left almost nothing behind to prove it existed. The one shipment we can still walk through, piece by piece, is the one that failed. And the window it opens closed fast. Within roughly a century of the sinking, the connected world this cargo maps, the ports, the palaces, the tin road out of Central Asia, came apart in the Great Bronze Age collapse, the story this channel has already told. The Uluburun ship is a photograph of everything that collapse destroyed, taken 100 years early, preserved by the accident of its own destruction. We cannot say who lost this ship. We can say that when it sank, it carried the whole world of its moment down with it, and kept it. So the scarab sits in a museum in Bodrum, and the ship keeps its silence. A complete inventory, and not one name in it. All that survives of its people's writing is a handful of scratched signs on copper that nobody can read, a mystery the size of a thumbnail. But there is a place where that mystery grew to the size of a language. On an island in the far Pacific, a people carved their script into wooden tablets, rows and rows of it, an entire writing system. Fewer than 30 of those tablets survive, scattered in museums half a world away, and not one person alive can read a line. It is called Rongorongo, and that story is next. And if tonight's mystery held you, a like helps more people find the deep past, and subscribing brings you a new story every week. I'll see you down there.